Hi there, welcome back to PST channel. If you are a player like me who may not pull Lune Mei during her release by any reason, but you're still a fan of Fi-Fi or Sam, you probably wonder if you want to spend your gem right now in order to build a strong team for Sam. How viable is this newest Robin? We heard everyone has been talking about her follow-up attack team, but is that only what she is good at? Is Sam the break character? And would he seriously require Lune Mei as people predict? We'll find out together here. First, let's compare side by side of what each of these buffers can do in general. As you can see, these are currently available buffs from Robin. Skill: damage buff 50% for 3 turns, party. Calculate locally, you get a little less than 50% final damage for character like Sam without their own buff, but it's still diminishing with main damage sword from Relic. So locally, what we actually gain is 50% minus by 1.38, 36%. Ultimate: give certain amount of ATK to the party and add certain amount of damage per attack. Calculate locally with the light relics. You would get locally 1000 ATK to the party, and she would hit between 10k to 15k damage locally per any attack during her ultimate. Of course, this is talking about Zero Eldalon. She does 4 times of this on Eldalon 6. Anyway, since the amount of attack totally depends on your team, so we will put this part as placeholder for now, but we can expect DPSec character in average to have around 3000 ATK. So this 1000 additional would yield locally 33% of the final damage. Talent: 27.5 critical damage. This may be good for majority of other DPSec, but not for Sam, because you probably will be busy enough fighting Relic with break effect, ATK, and speed, rather than critical stuff. So this talent barely hold value if your main DPSec is Sam. I may be mini, but potential DPSec add from this buff to final damage may be as low as 5%. Trace: crit damage to following up attack. Probably no benefit for Sam or whatsoever. So to summarize, Robin herself would support Sam damage for 36% plus 33% plus 5%, total 74%. Next, we are moving on Lune Mei. For skill, you get damage buff 32% for 3 turns on party and break efficiency plus 50%. The skill on both characters is almost the same, except Lune Mei give least damage buff in exchange for break efficiency. We will note down break efficiency first because this value is hard to calculate, but I would say it benefits Sam to quite some degree. As for the damage buff, let's say it's become 32 divided by 1.38, 23%. Ultimate: plus 25 less penetration and additional damage 50% of Lune Mei break damage. Lune Mei ultimate provide additional break damage plus a 10 dash break with help on survivability. However, we will not discuss about sustain kit here. The actual damage we get from this is 25% less penetration, which almost give to 25% of total final damage directly, and 50% of Lune Mei break into direct damage each time when the enemy break gate is broken. On average build with 180 break effect, Lune Mei will deal additional 7.5k damage per break on elite enemy. For talent, is plus 10% speed and additional 120% Lune Mei break damage when breaking. This is where Lune Mei is gaining more advantage than Robin, since Robin talent doesn't help Sam team, but Lune Mei gives speed which benefits Sam a lot. This gives locally a little less than 10% DPSec on final damage, plus additional allow 18k per break. Trace: plus 36 damage on party and 20% break effect on party. So Lune Mei Trace give 26 buff add to the final damage and also 20% break effect which make your Sam easier to build. So in total, Lune Mei would buff Sam for around 23 plus 25 plus 10 plus 26 is 84% to final damage. This is obviously the case that we do not account for the possible variance number such as Robin additional attack and Lun Mei additional break yet. We will add that part up after we check what we learned that far about Sam as a character first. So, Henshin. Well, to make it short, Sam is a special character who calculates damage based on ATK and break effect value mixed together as the final attack damage from his skill. Unlike Lun Mei, he doesn't need to break enemy first to deal high damage, but is built in right into his skill power. He can easily break the boss and likely break at least one during transformation. And since you need to know the number of attacks to calculate Robin part, Sam is expected to be able to attack 2 or 3 times by himself during Robin ultimate time. So that is all you need to know for now. Let's go back to the comparison. Put Robin on left and Lun Mei on right. List their buff effect to compare. From previously, Robin gives 74% buff to Sam final damage plus additional attack, and Lun Mei gives 84% plus additional break damage. We now insert the likely scenario that Sam would attack 3 times during Robin ultimate and break 1 time during Lun Mei ultimate. So we got 30k to 45k raw additional damage from Robin, and 170% of Lun Mei break, which is 26k to 38k damage from Lun Mei. So at E0 and no unique LC, I would say that Lun Mei wins. Not only she offers a little more DPSec boost, but she still had other advantage due to additional sustainability and break efficiency too. However, what if we add LC into consideration? Both of the LC increased party damage by 24% during ultimate. Robin version increased their energy and ATK a little more than calculate into very minor increase to final damage. Lun Mei version regen skill point by 1, but Sam is not SP hunky character as far as we know from E1 onward, so the value on this part is dependent on the team member. However, they are not much relevant to Sam other than the original damage buff. So, it doesn't change that Lun Mei is still on the lead. Next, what if we have some budget and wanna spend on optimal Eldalon 1 and 2? This is where Robin's stock increased. Her Eldalon 1 increased less penetration by 25%, which add almost 25% directly to the final damage. Whereas Lun Mei Eldalon 1 increased depth penetration by 20%, but Sam is a character that already have plenty of innate depth pen during transformation, so I give this only 13% buff to the final damage. For the second Eldalon, Robin increased speed by 16% during ultimate, which you should avoid timing it together with Sam transformation anyway. This is hard to calculate. It may or may not help the button at all. But to make it fair, we will calculate it the same way as we give it to Lun Mei speed buff. So it is 16% add to the final DPSec or less, whereas Lun Mei Eldalon 2 would give 40% ATK during break. By calculation, this would yield around 10% or less to the final DPSec. Since Sam doesn't always attack on break enemy, I will diminishing both value to 12% for Robin and 7% for Lun Mei for realistic scenario. So it is another Eldalon that consider Robin win. So in total, we conclude our number like this. Robin 128% plus 30 to 45k, Lun Mei 121% plus 26 to 38k. Despite Robin give a little higher number now, both are pretty much give the same DPSec when they are the main buffer for Sam at E2. I would say that Lun Mei is still better for sustainability and break efficiency. Despite Sam's main source of damage doesn't come from actually break the enemy, but he could take several benefits when breaking them. So Lun Mei would be the better choice definitely for Sam main. However, As you see that Robin can buff allow the same amount BP sec to break effect Hunger character like Sam. Despite this character doesn't like her critical damage talent and trace. Plus, this character also take no part in following up attack. Therefore, Robin at E2 would be better buffer on any team than Lun Mei, except break effect character such as Sam and Butiu. In the end, Robin remained as overall better buffer for any team except break effect team, and she is much greater in following up attack team. So it's worth pulling for Robin, no matter you have Lun Mei or not. But if your sole purpose is Sam, then waiting for Lun Mei is possible a stronger choice to buff Sam. This also allows you more chance to manage your gem also. Next up, my partner, Luli Gogo, is slightly demonstrate Robin gameplay in compare with Lun Mei too. Definitely look it up once it's become available. Alright, I will end this short video here. If you like more Honkai style content like this, please let me know on the comment below. And I also have Facebook page dedicated to RPG fan if you're interested. Thank you for watching.